So the embedded system development is also very fast, and at the same time, the miniature sized embedded systems, right? We call it as a MIMS. That stands for micro electromechanical systems. It's actually a system, and the size is going to be micro level. And even the nanotechnology has come where we are going to speak about nano level, right? So it's 10 power minus 9 level. So the size of these embedded systems are keeping on reducing, right? And the speed of operation is also correspondingly increasing. So that is actually the improvement in the technology. Fine. So the first recognized modern embedded system is the Apollo Guidance Computer, developed by the MIT Instrumentation Lab for the lunar expedition, right? So for lunar expedition, they have developed a specific computer that is called as an Apollo Guidance Computer, right? It was developed by the MIT Instrumentation Laboratory. So that was the first recognized embedded system, we can say, just for your information, we can say, right? And in that, it had 36K of words of fixed memory and 2K of words of erasable memory. So we can see it's only a 36 kilobytes of fixed memory, right? And only 2 kilobytes of RAM, right? That is actually the erasable memory. So which can be used for computations. And the clock frequency was around 1.024 megahertz and was derived from a 2.048 megahertz crystal clock, right? So there was a clock crystal and which can operate up to 2.048, and we are deriving clock of 1.024 megahertz from that. Fine. And the first mass produced embedded system was the Autonetics T17 guidance computer for the Minuteman I missile, right? So again, the second embedded system was also went for a missile controlling applications in 1961. Fine. And it was built using the discrete transistor logic and hard disk for main memory. So it uses a hard disk. I think hard disk we might be using, right? So the data is stored in the magnetic field. And that is actually the main memory, and it is useful based on the discrete transistors. What is actually a discrete system and what is an integrated circuit? Discrete means you can easily differentiate which is the transistor, which is the resistor, which is the capacitor. So these are all called as discrete components. But these discrete components can be integrated into a single chip that is called integrated circuit chip. I think you should be knowing that IC chips, right? I think you should be knowing that, right? So this particular system was developed using the discrete transistor logics. And the first integrated circuit was produced in September 1958, and the computers using them appear in 1963, right? So the first IC was produced in 1958, and that was used in computers from 1963. So this is actually a brief history of the embedded systems that are useful. And the classification of the embedded system, how the embedded system can be classified, right? So there are basically 4 things that can be used to classify the embedded systems. The first one is based on the generation. So what is meant by generation? How the embedded systems evolved. What are the features of the first generation systems, second generation system, third generation system, and goes on. The second classification can be on the complexity and performance, right? So how complex my embedded system is, or how many transistors are packed inside the chip of that particular controller, and what is the speed it can deliver, right? So the complexity and performance. The third one is based on the deterministic behavior. So whether I can determine which task is executed in the processor or not, right? So if I can do it now, then that is actually a deterministic behavior. Suppose if I can't do it, then it's a non-deterministic behavior. So we can classify the embedded systems based on this 2. And the fourth one is based on the triggering. When my embedded system will be get into task or get into action. So for example, I have to do one process for every time. So there will be a timer. So whenever that 10 minutes time has come, the process will get executed, right? That is one case. The second case is when some value triggers. Say for example, I am using an embedded system for pressure control inside a boiler. When the pressure exceeds certain level, 100 psi or 200 psi, whatever it is, then my embedded system should immediately release the pressure valve in order to reduce the pressure inside the boiler, right? Otherwise the boiler may burst out, where it may explode. So in that case, based on some parameter or based on some time interval, the process will be triggered. So we can classify the embedded systems based on the triggering also. So we will see one by one, of course. So based on the generation, we can classify the embedded systems into first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth, and the next generation, which are actually coming now, right, in the present situation. We will see one by one. So the first generation embedded systems were built on 8-bit microprocessors, right? The first microprocessor that was introduced in 1985, right? So it is actually called as 8085, and simultaneously the Motorola has given a Z80 processor, right? So these are all the two 8-bit microcontrollers and microprocessors, I mean to say, right? And after that, there were some 4-bit microcontrollers were also designed. And they will be having some simple in hardware circuits and firmware developed in assembly code, right? So we'll be writing some assembly language code for all these things. And these were actually useful in digital telephone keypads, right? So whenever we want to press some button, so inside there will be a small chip which takes care of all the pins, right? All the buttons. And in some cases we can use it for the stepper motor control units. So these are all some minimum applications which were used, right? And 8085 was used in rover also, right? So there is a satellite rover was actually an exploring device was generated, right? So 8085 was the primary chip in that, I was told, right? Fine. And second generation embedded systems, they are built around the 16-bit microprocessor. So the 8-bit microprocessors were replaced by 16-bit microprocessor, comparably of higher power, we can say. Or it can also have an 8-bit or 16-bit microcontrollers, right? And the instruction set were much more complex. When compared to your first generation, the instruction set will be much more complex and it can execute powerful instructions. And the second generation embedded systems contained embedded operating systems. So the need for OS, because the system is complicated, multiple tasks have to be run. So in that case, we have to take care of the help of an operating system, right? So the second generation processors have that operating systems also. And the examples are data acquisition system. Normally we call it as a DAC systems, right? And the SCADA systems, that is supervisory computer and data acquisition. So there will be a master control which is going to take all the parameters and do the calculations and going to control, right? Say for example, a SCADA system for controlling a distillation plant. So in the distillation plant, there will be plenty of temperature controllers will be there, pH control will be there, then pressure control will be there, level control, flow control. So there are plenty of parameters need to be controlled inside a boiler or in distillation column. So all these parameters are fed into a SCADA system, and this particular SCADA system will take care of the controlling of the overall plant, right? So these things are done in the second generation of the processor. The third generation of the embedded systems started with a 32-bit microprocessor or 16-bit microcontrollers. And in this case, the application and domain specific processors or controllers like DSP and application specific integrated circuits called ASICs came into the picture. Right now, in this variation, actually what happened, the need for fast processing is needed. So in that case, how effectively I can do some processing? Like say for example, in the normal processor, right? Say if you want to do a negative number and floating point number calculations, then it may take a long time. But this digital signal processors can effectively handle this floating point numbers. And also in normal processing, the normal operations that need to be done is addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, right? And the subtraction can be done using the addition function if you take 1's complement or 2's complement. I think you should be knowing it. And the division, of course, can be done by using repeated subtraction. So these things are, of course, everybody knows about it. So in that case, if you have a perfect or a full-fledged adder and multiplier, then we can manage most of the operations in the DSP functions. So this digital signal processors will be having a MAC unit. MAC stands for multiplier accumulator unit, right? So they will be having a MAC unit instead of a normal CPU functions, right? So that is regarding this DSP processors. And when we get into this application specific integrated circuit, right? So we are going to design our own hardware for the application. Say for example, how many input pins are there? Supposing if a washing machine, I need to measure 4 input parameters. What is the water level? What is the dirt level using some suitable sensor? What is the timer output? And some other, what is the power supply input? So there are 4 sensors are available there. So 4 inputs will be coming inside. So my chip will be designed only with the 4 such inputs. And how many outputs are there? Suppose it has to control 2 outputs, then only 2 pins will be there for output units. So we are going to define a integrated circuit IC based on a specific application. That's why they are called it as a application specific integrated circuit. So they also used for this embedded systems. And the instruction set of processes become more complex, right? In the third generation, the instructions are very complex and powerful, and the concept of instruction pipelining also evolved. What is pipelining? Of course, we are going to see that now, right? Dedicated embedded real-time and general purpose operating systems entered into the embedded market, right? So there were some real-time operating systems as well as some general purpose operating systems were also getting into the third generation of classifications. And the fourth one is the next one is the embedded system spread its ground across the areas like robotics, media, industrial process, networking, everywhere, right? So the applications have actually diverged, right? So there's a diverse applications are available for this embedded systems in the third generation of it. And also the embedded, And in the case of fourth generation, the advent of system on chip, a complete system is placed inside a single chip. That is actually called a system on chip, right? So initially the digital programming started something like this. The first programmable hardware is called ROM, read-only memory. I think you should be knowing, right? So read-only memory is the first programmable hardware, one-time programmable. Then we have PROM, then EEPROM, then EEPROM. So those are all variations. And then came PAL and PLA, stands for programmable logic array and programmable array logic, right? So these consist of some digital circuits which can be programmed according to our application. Then after we have FPGAs, field programmable gate arrays, then ASICs, application specific integrated circuits. Then came this complete system inside a single chip that is called a system on chip, right? And the advantage is this system can also be reconfigured. So that is called as a reconfigurable processors. Again, the reconfigurable processor may be runtime reconfiguration. While the system is running, simultaneously we can reconfigure. For example, what we can say, right? Normally what will happen if a program is being executed in the system. Now I want to change my program. What I have to do? First I have to stop the execution of the program. Then I have to do the changes in the program, then I have to compile it, then I have to run it. So I have to stop the process.